if Kyrie Irving can get Brooklyn back to the same position they were in this year in the playoffs. And
so just into the playoffs.
Into the playoffs, win 42 to 45 games. If they can be that 9th, 8th, 7th seed in contention, because as Kevin Durant starts to feel a lot better, which he will in 6 months, most people that I've talked to, physical therapists that I've talked to, doctors, 6.5 months, Kevin Durant will be 100% healthy. Now, when they go on to the basketball court and play in NBA games, that will be determined later. But as Kevin Durant gets healthy, the team is swinging into playoff form. That be, to me, with Kyrie. And I've been to a lot of Nets games. I see how they cheer. I see how they do all kind of dances on the side. I saw the type of chemistry that they had with the coach. When the coach chews out a guy, man, they support the coach's decision. So I've seen this. So I need the team in the same position because I believe they are good enough that they should be able to win 40 games. And the overall chemistry, he's going to be responsible because KD can only do so much being injured. And I believe that both of them are very, very important. They can't win 30 games and then they say, you know something, we'll see Kevin Durant in 2020. No. We'd like to have the pressure of, is KD going to come back potentially for the playoffs, which I believe is real.
So I'm going to put the expectations where you have them, but just a bit higher. Because when I saw this question this morning, I thought about, okay, let's just pretend Brooklyn ran it back. That they didn't get any major free agent. They kept D'Angelo Russell, their young roster. They'll have Karis LeVert. They would hope for a full season after he dealt with that serious injury. They won 42 games last year. Wouldn't we be saying they should be 45, 46 wins? That they should be a little bit better, a young roster? Let's say they added DeAndre Jordan as well, as a little front court depth, which they did do, obviously.
Right. I like to be careful with that. I would say, man, I think that they can duplicate it. But even if they got to 42 wins, I think that, you know something? I think they're a better team because they're second year together. So I think it's reasonable to say 3 to 8 wins, yes, but even if they were the same, they were going to be a better team,
right,
yes.
But now they've got a player better than D'Angelo Russell.
True.
Now they kept their core. They re-signed Dinwiddie. LeVert's back. Jared Allen's back. Joe Harris back. We know all this, right? So I think in the East this year, even if Kawhi leaves Toronto, I think the top 3 teams are going to be in some order: Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Toronto. Toronto showed over the last few years, even last year, they can win games without Kawhi Leonard. And so those should be your top 3 seeds. Then there's 4 teams: Brooklyn, Indiana, Boston, and Miami with the addition of Jimmy Butler. 4, 5, 6, 7 in some order. What did we see in this year's playoffs? First round. Home team won every single round. You know what mattered? Home court in that first round. In fact, this year's playoffs, after the first round, there were only 2 road teams that won a series. It was when Portland upset Denver in 7, and then Toronto won 4 straight against Milwaukee. Home court matters in this league. So for Kyrie Irving, after last year saying, I'm just focused on the playoffs, just wait, get me to the playoffs, here would be something, if I were one of Kyrie's close, advisors, I'd say to him, here should be one of your goals. Be better than Boston. Beat Boston. Boston had 49 wins with you. Brooklyn had 42 wins without you. Are you worth 4 wins in this league? Is Boston going to take 4 wins back? You're going to go 4 wins forward? Then you'll be ahead of them. Can you get to that 4 line so it's a home playoff series in Brooklyn to where if KD comes back, it's like, hey,
that would be hot.
Now, all of a sudden, what 1 seed wants to face Kevin Durant if he were to come back with Kyrie Irving? So those, to me, are tangible goals. And then culture-wise, which I know is something that's important to you, Jenna, but also important to the NBA, set a tone for the young players so different. To take one of your lines, the bizarro Kyrie from last year. Whatever Kyrie would have done last year, do the opposite when it comes to the young players and creating not even creating a culture in Brooklyn, because they have one. Perpetuating, continuing the culture that was there before he got there.
That's a lot to ask of Kyrie, because I felt like Boston had better players, supporting players last year around Kyrie than clearly the Nets are going to have next year. So all of a sudden you're saying, be better than you were last year, be a better leader than you were, be better to the young guys, set a better cultural template. That's a lot to ask a guy who's coming into a new place, whether it's home or not home. Do you think Kyrie can do that?
One thing, I'm just going to believe in Kyrie because you don't have all the agendas that you had in Boston.
Yeah.
You had a lot of pressure outside You have Tatum coming off the playoff run that he was on. He was in the offseason working out with Kobe Bryant. I heard people on TV. I almost said something. I'm glad I caught myself. But they said things like, oh, one day this guy's going to be an NBA scoring champion. So they fill his head with that. Jaylen Brown's trying to fight for respect. Gordon Hayward, he's got an agenda with the coach, and the coach's agenda is to make sure that this guy looks good, who I recruited from high school. Kyrie does not have to face that, and he picked this team. He did not pick the Boston Celtics. So all those things, they're hard when you are trying to become a leader. When you are in the shadow of LeBron James, you force your way out, you get into a situation that you realize that, you know something? I know it says I'm in the deep water, and I've swam in deep water before, but it's a lot different when people are expecting you to be the captain to be able to calm things down. So I think Kyrie Irving learned an awful lot. He pulled off the biggest coup in free agency, and that's pulling Kevin Durant, because Kevin Durant was going to the Knicks.
Right.
And Kyrie Irving's leadership, or whatever you want to say, convincing him to come to Brooklyn with him, I'm going to give Kyrie some credit and give him another opportunity, because he's still a young as far as leadership. And I believe leaders, there's some born, but there are also some developed. And I believe that's where Kyrie Irving is right now.
And if there's ever a moment where someone's going to change, grow, and mature, he is in the perfect situation for it. Not only because he picked Brooklyn, not only because this is the first place since Duke he's been able to pick. He's coming off his first sports failure of his life. He didn't fail at Duke. He got hurt. Each year with the Cavs, they weren't, before LeBron got there, they weren't good, but they got better each year. Then LeBron gets there. They make an NBA Finals, but he gets hurt. He doesn't get to play in them. The next year, they win the championship. The next year, that Cavs team was even better. They just ran into the Durant Warriors. Then he asks out. Boston's playing great, and then he gets hurt. Last year was the first year he's healthy. He has real expectations, and he can't deliver. Can that humbling moment, plus being able to pick the spot, plus playing with the guy he wanted to play with, that he got to pick the city, right, in a team where there aren't those other agendas, guys aren't waiting to get paid, guys aren't waiting to prove themselves at the way it was in Boston. If that doesn't cause maturation, if that doesn't cause growth, then nothing will. So I agree with Cris. I don't think we should close the door and say Kyrie's going to be this guy. Now, I think he's going to be an odd guy on the internet. I think that's who he is. But as far as in the locker room, I think he can be better in Brooklyn, and Brooklyn expects him to be better, especially while they wait on Kevin Durant.
All right. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.